Most people do not leave relationships because they clearly understand what is wrong. They leave because the pain becomes unbearable, or they stay because the fear of being alone feels heavier than the cost of staying. Stoicism does not rush you toward either decision. It demands clarity first. It asks you to step back from emotion, from attachment, from hope and fear, and to look at reality as it is, not as you wish it to be. A relationship is not proven by words, promises, or memories. It is proven by patterns. How you are treated when things are difficult, how conflicts are handled, how respect is maintained when comfort fades. Stoic philosophy teaches that suffering comes not from events themselves, but from our judgments about them. Many people suffer for years not because their relationship is unclear, but because they refuse to see what is already obvious. This series is not about telling you to leave or stay. It is about helping you see, to remove illusion, to replace emotional confusion with rational observation. If your relationship is aligned with virtue, growth, and mutual respect, this process will strengthen your commitment. If it is built on fear, imbalance, or self-betrayal, clarity will naturally lead you away from it. Stoicism does not ask what feels good. It asks what is true. And truth, once seen, cannot be unseen. Chapter 1. The Stoic Test of Reality. The first principle of Stoicism is simple, yet most people fail it immediately. See reality as it is, not as you want it to be. Relationships become confusing, not because the truth is hidden, but because the mind refuses to accept what it sees. Hope distorts perception. Fear rewrites facts. Attachment turns warning signs into temporary problems. Before deciding whether to leave or stay, you must pass the Stoic test of reality. A Stoic does not ask, "How do I feel about this relationship?" Feelings fluctuate. A Stoic asks, "What is actually happening here?" This shift alone changes everything. Emotions are reactions, not evidence. Evidence is found in behavior, consistency, and patterns over time. Words are cheap. Apologies are easy. Promises are effortless. Actions require character. Ask yourself this without defense or justification. When conflict arises, what happens consistently? Are problems addressed with honesty and responsibility, or with blame, avoidance, and manipulation? One healthy conversation does not define a relationship. Neither does one bad fight. Patterns define reality. Stoicism demands that you judge the pattern, not the exception. Many people stay because they remember how things were in the beginning. But Stoicism teaches that the past is dead. You do not live with the past version of a person. You live with who they are now. Marcus Aurelius warned against clinging to impressions formed long ago. People change. Circumstances change. A relationship must be evaluated in the present, not preserved as a memory. Another Stoic test is this: does this relationship help you become more virtuous, or does it constantly pull you away from your better self? Virtue in Stoicism means wisdom, self-control, courage, and justice. If you find yourself lying to keep peace, shrinking to avoid conflict, abandoning boundaries to prevent abandonment, or tolerating disrespect to maintain attachment, the relationship is eroding your character. No amount of love justifies self-betrayal. Pay attention to how you feel after interactions, not during moments of intensity. Intensity can feel like connection, but Stoics distinguish between passion and stability. After spending time together, do you feel grounded, respected, and clear? Or do you feel anxious, drained, confused, or doubting your own perceptions? A relationship that repeatedly destabilizes your inner state is not strengthening you, no matter how strong the emotional pull feels. Stoicism also demands personal accountability. You must examine not only your partner's actions, but your own role in the dynamic. Are you avoiding difficult truths because facing them would require a painful decision? Are you accepting less than you deserve because loneliness frightens you more than unhappiness? A Stoic does not blame fate for a situation they continue to choose. One of the most difficult Stoic lessons is understanding what is within your control and what is not. You cannot control your partner's behavior, emotional availability, honesty, or willingness to grow. You can control your standards, boundaries, and responses. If you have clearly communicated your needs and nothing changes, continuing to hope is not optimism. It is denial. Relationships often survive on potential rather than reality. They could be better. They're trying. Once this phase passes, things will improve. Stoicism rejects potential as a foundation for life decisions. You do not date potential. You do not commit to potential. You build your life around what is real and repeatable. If effort only appears when you threaten to leave, that effort is fear-based, not character-based. Another reality test is reciprocity. Is emotional labor shared, or does one person constantly adapt, forgive, explain, and endure? Stoics value fairness. An unbalanced relationship violates the principle of justice. If one person sacrifices peace while the other sacrifices nothing, the relationship is not mutual. Over time, imbalance turns love into resentment. Notice whether your partner respects your boundaries without punishment. In healthy relationships, boundaries create safety. In unhealthy ones, boundaries create conflict. If every boundary leads to guilt, anger, withdrawal, or manipulation, you are not dealing with misunderstanding. You are dealing with control. Stoicism teaches that clarity often feels cold, but it is compassionate in the long run. Remaining in a relationship that slowly diminishes you is not loyalty. It is self-abandonment. The Stoic understands that suffering is optional when it is self-chosen. Pain may be unavoidable, but prolonged misery is often the result of refusing to accept reality. Ask yourself one final question in this chapter. If nothing about this relationship changed for the next 5 years, would staying be an act of self-respect or self-denial? Remove hope from the equation. Remove fear from the equation. Look only at what exists. The answer you resist most strongly is usually the one closest to the truth. Stoicism does not rush your decision. It sharpens your vision. Once you see clearly, action becomes inevitable. Whether you stay or leave, it will no longer be driven by confusion but by understanding. And understanding is the foundation of inner peace. Chapter 2. Attachment, Fear, and the Illusion of Loss. Attachment is not love, though many people confuse the two. Stoicism draws a sharp distinction between caring for someone and clinging to them out of fear. Love is grounded in choice, respect, and virtue. Attachment is rooted in anxiety, scarcity, and the terror of loss. If you cannot tell which one is guiding your relationship, this chapter will make it clear. Most people stay in unhealthy relationships not because they are fulfilled, but because they are afraid. Afraid of being alone. Afraid of starting over. Afraid that they will not find better. Fear disguises itself as loyalty, patience, and unconditional love. Stoicism exposes this disguise mercilessly. A Stoic asks whether staying is an expression of strength or a reaction to fear. The answer matters more than any romantic narrative you tell yourself. Attachment forms when your sense of stability becomes dependent on another person's presence or approval. You begin to tolerate behaviors you would once reject. You rationalize disrespect. You silence your instincts. Slowly, your inner peace becomes hostage to someone else's moods, attention, and choices. Stoicism teaches that anything which controls your inner state controls you. A relationship that robs you of emotional autonomy is not a partnership. It is a dependency. Fear of loss intensifies attachment. The mind exaggerates what will happen if the relationship ends. You imagine unbearable loneliness, regret, failure, and emptiness. But Stoicism reminds us that the future is not something we possess. We suffer more in imagination than in reality. The pain you fear is often worse than the pain you are actually enduring. This fear keeps people trapped in situations that quietly erode them. Another illusion attachment creates is the belief that leaving means losing everything you invested. Time, effort, memories, sacrifice. Stoicism rejects this thinking completely. What is spent in the past is already gone. The only relevant question is whether continuing forward is wise. Staying to justify past investment is like continuing to drink poison because you already paid for it. Wisdom requires knowing when to stop. Attachment also distorts responsibility. You begin to feel responsible for your partner's emotions, growth, or happiness. You stay because you fear hurting them, even as you hurt yourself. Stoicism teaches that you are responsible for your own character, not for managing the emotional lives of others. Compassion does not require self-destruction. You can care without carrying what is not yours. Notice how attachment reacts to uncertainty. When things feel unstable, attachment clings tighter. It tries harder. It gives more. It hopes louder. Stoicism moves in the opposite direction. When clarity fades, the Stoic steps back. They observe. They reduce emotional noise to see what is actually occurring. Attachment wants reassurance. Stoicism wants truth. Ask yourself honestly whether your relationship is fueled by fear of being alone rather than joy in being together. If your primary motivation is avoiding loneliness, the relationship has already become a coping mechanism. Stoics value solitude because it reveals whether you are complete within yourself. If the idea of being alone terrifies you more than being unhappy, that fear deserves examination, not obedience. Attachment also creates excuses. You explain away behavior because you cannot bear the alternative conclusion. They didn't mean it. They're stressed. They'll change. Stoicism demands evidence, not explanations. If behavior continues despite awareness, the explanation no longer matters. Repeated harm is a choice, not an accident. Another sign of unhealthy attachment is bargaining with yourself. You tell yourself that if certain things improve, you will finally be at peace. If they communicate more, if they commit, if they change. Stoicism teaches that peace is not postponed to future conditions. If peace depends on someone becoming different, you are not at peace now, and you are not in control of when you will be. Let go of the fantasy that leaving means failure. Stoicism reframes departure as alignment. Walking away from what diminishes you is not weakness. It is courage. Endings are not punishments. They are corrections. The Stoic understands that loss is inevitable in life, but losing yourself is optional. Ask yourself this final question with brutal honesty. If fear were removed entirely, would you still choose this relationship? Not obligation, not history, not hope. Choice. The answer reveals whether you are staying from love or from attachment. Stoicism does not judge the answer. It simply insists that you face it. When fear loosens its grip, clarity emerges. And with clarity comes freedom. Whether you stay or leave, it should be because you choose, not because you are afraid to let go. That distinction determines everything. Chapter 3. Respect, boundaries, and the measure of worth. Stoicism teaches that self-worth is not something granted by others. It is something maintained through discipline, boundaries, and respect for oneself. A relationship becomes unhealthy not only when love fades, but when respect erodes. Many people endure relationships that wound them daily, not because they are unloved, but because they have lost clarity about what they deserve. This chapter is about restoring that clarity. Respect is revealed in behavior under pressure. Anyone can be kind when things are easy. Stoics observe how a person behaves when they are challenged, frustrated, or dissatisfied. Do they listen, or do they dismiss? Do they take responsibility, or do they deflect? Do they remain fair, or do they become cruel? These moments expose character. A relationship without consistent respect cannot be repaired by affection alone. Boundaries are the framework of respect. They are not punishments or ultimatums. They are statements of self-knowledge. When you set a boundary, you are saying, "This is where I end, and this is what I will protect." Stoicism teaches that without boundaries, you surrender your inner order. If a partner repeatedly crosses your boundaries and nothing changes, the message is clear. What you allow, you teach. Many people believe that love requires tolerance of pain. Stoicism rejects this belief. Love does not demand endurance of disrespect. Patience is a virtue only when it does not violate justice. When patience becomes self-neglect, it is no longer virtuous. A Stoic knows the difference. Ask yourself whether your needs are treated as valid or inconvenient. Do you feel safe expressing disagreement, or do you walk on emotional eggshells? Silence born from fear is not peace, it is suppression. Over time, suppression turns into resentment, anxiety, and loss of self. Stoicism warns against trading inner stability for external harmony. Another test of respect is accountability. When harm occurs, does your partner acknowledge it without excuses? Or do they minimize, justify, or reverse blame? Stoics value responsibility because it reflects integrity. Repeated refusal to take responsibility is not misunderstanding. It is a refusal to grow. You cannot build a stable life with someone who avoids accountability. Boundaries also reveal your relationship with yourself. If you state a boundary but fail to enforce it, you teach others that your limits are flexible under pressure. Stoicism emphasizes action over words. A boundary without consequence is a request. Repeatedly compromising your own standards erodes self-respect faster than any external insult. Notice whether respect is conditional. Is kindness withdrawn when you disagree? Is affection used as leverage? Stoicism identifies this as emotional manipulation. Love that depends on compliance is not love, it is control. A Stoic does not negotiate their dignity for temporary peace. Another difficult realization is that being needed is not the same as being valued. Some relationships survive because one person provides stability, support, or emotional labor. But usefulness is not respect. Stoicism teaches that your worth is intrinsic, not earned through sacrifice. If you are only appreciated when you give, but not when you ask, the relationship is imbalanced. Ask yourself whether this relationship reinforces or diminishes your sense of worth. Do you feel more confident, grounded, and self-directed, or more doubtful, apologetic, and small? Stoics understand that environments shape character. A relationship that consistently shrinks you is shaping you in the wrong direction. Respect also means honoring your time and energy. Chronic inconsistency, broken promises, and neglect are not minor flaws. They communicate priority. Stoicism urges you to interpret behavior honestly. People reveal what matters to them through what they protect and sustain. This chapter's core question is simple but unforgiving. Are you treated as an equal or as an option? Equality does not mean perfection. It means mutual consideration, effort, and regard. Without it, no amount of emotional attachment can compensate for the slow loss of self-respect. Stoicism teaches that walking away from disrespect is not abandonment. It is alignment with virtue. When you uphold your boundaries, you are not being difficult. You are being clear. And clarity is the foundation of dignity. Chapter 4. Growth, Stagnation, and the Direction of Your Life. Stoicism views life as movement. Nothing remains static, and no person stays the same. Every day you are either refining your character or slowly surrendering it. A relationship must be judged not only by how it feels now, but by where it is taking you. This chapter asks a crucial Stoic question. Does this relationship move your life forward, or does it quietly keep you stuck? Growth is not comfort. Growth requires friction, honesty, and willingness to confront flaws. But stagnation feels deceptively peaceful. You settle into routines. You avoid difficult conversations. You accept good enough as a permanent condition. Stoicism warns that comfort without progress is a slow form of decay. If your relationship discourages growth, it is not neutral. It is harmful. Observe whether your partner supports your development or subtly resists it. Do they encourage your discipline, ambitions, and self-improvement? Or do they mock, minimize, or compete with them? Stoics believe that companionship should strengthen virtue. A relationship that pulls you away from your goals is not love, it is distraction. Many people confuse stability with stagnation. Stability allows growth because it provides trust and consistency. Stagnation occurs when both people stop striving, stop questioning, and stop evolving. If years pass and the same issues remain unresolved, the relationship is not enduring challenges, it is avoiding them. Stoicism emphasizes personal responsibility for growth, but it also recognizes influence. You are shaped by who you spend time with, their habits, attitudes, and values become familiar, then normal. Ask yourself whether you are becoming more disciplined, wise, and courageous, or more complacent, reactive, and resigned. The direction matters more than isolated moments. Another sign of stagnation is emotional looping. The same arguments repeat with new words but identical outcomes. Nothing is learned. Nothing changes. Stoicism teaches that repetition without reflection is foolishness. If conflict leads nowhere, it is not conflict anymore. It is a pattern. Growth requires truth. If honesty is punished in your relationship, growth will be impossible. When expressing concerns leads to defensiveness, shutdown, or retaliation, the relationship trains you to remain silent. Silence may preserve peace temporarily, but it suffocates progress. A Stoic would rather face discomfort than live in quiet decline. Notice whether your relationship has a shared direction, not vague hopes but aligned values. Do you agree on what matters, how to live, and what kind of life you are building? Stoicism values purpose. Two people walking in different directions may feel close for a time, but distance is inevitable. Ask whether effort is mutual. Growth cannot be carried by one person alone. If you are always initiating change, reflection, or repair, you are not in a partnership. You are in a project. Stoics respect effort, but they do not waste it where it is not reciprocated. Fear often disguises itself as loyalty here. You tell yourself that staying is commitment, endurance, or virtue. But Stoicism teaches that virtue requires wisdom. Enduring what makes you worse is not noble. It is negligent. Another critical sign is whether growth threatens the relationship. If becoming healthier, stronger, or more self-directed causes tension, something is wrong. Love should not feel endangered by your improvement. A partner who fears your growth fears losing control, not losing you. Stoicism also reminds you that time is finite. Every year spent stagnating is a year you do not recover. This is not meant to pressure you, but to awaken you. Staying in a relationship that halts your development is a decision with long-term consequences. You are choosing who you will become. Ask yourself where this relationship leads if nothing changes. Not where you hope it leads, but where its current trajectory points. 5 years from now, will you be stronger or more diminished? Clear-eyed projection is a Stoic tool. It strips fantasy from decision-making. Growth does not guarantee happiness, but stagnation guarantees regret. Stoicism teaches that regret comes from knowing you acted against your better judgment. If deep down you sense that staying is costing you your potential, that voice deserves attention. This chapter leaves you with one question. Is this relationship aligned with the person you are becoming, or the person you are afraid to leave behind? The answer does not condemn you. It clarifies your direction. Chapter 5. Choice, Courage, and the Cost of Staying. Stoicism teaches that every situation carries a cost, whether you act or remain still. Many people believe that staying in a familiar relationship is the safer option, while leaving is the risk. This is an illusion. Staying has a cost. Leaving has a cost. The Stoic does not ask which option is painless, but which cost is worth paying. This chapter is about courage, not impulse, and about recognizing the price you are already paying. Inaction is a choice. Avoiding a decision does not freeze reality. It allows it to continue unchecked. Every day you stay in a relationship that troubles you, you reinforce that reality as acceptable. Stoicism emphasizes conscious choice. Living unconsciously carried by habit and fear is a form of self-abandonment. You may not actively choose suffering, but by refusing to choose differently, you consent to it. Courage is often misunderstood. People think courage means dramatic action, confrontation, or walking away without hesitation. Stoicism defines courage more quietly. Courage is the willingness to face discomfort in service of truth. Sometimes that means staying and doing the difficult work of change. Sometimes it means leaving and facing uncertainty alone. Both require strength. What matters is whether your action aligns with reason rather than fear. Consider the cost of staying. What does it demand from you daily? Emotional suppression? Compromised boundaries? constant vigilance, anxiety, diminished ambition. These costs accumulate slowly, which is why they are easy to ignore. Stoicism warns that slow damage is still damage. A life worn down gradually is no less tragic than one shattered suddenly. Many people fear regret if they leave. But Stoicism reframes regret. Regret does not come from loss itself. It comes from acting against your understanding. If you leave with clarity, honesty, and integrity, regret has little ground to grow. The deeper regret often comes from knowing you stayed too long, sacrificing yourself for an outcome that never arrived. Ask yourself what staying teaches you about yourself. Does it reinforce self-respect, or does it train you to tolerate less? Stoicism teaches that habits shape character. Each time you accept what violates your values, you weaken your alignment with them. Over time, this creates inner conflict, a quiet sense of shame and loss of confidence. These are not abstract ideas. They are lived consequences. Leaving also carries a cost. There will be grief, uncertainty, and discomfort. Stoicism does not deny this, but it distinguishes between pain that leads to growth and pain that leads to stagnation. One is an investment, the other is a drain. Temporary pain that restores alignment is preferable to ongoing pain that erodes it. Another fear that keeps people stuck is responsibility. You worry about hurting the other person. Stoicism teaches compassion without self-sacrifice. You can act kindly without remaining trapped. You are responsible for your conduct, not for preventing all discomfort in others. Sometimes the most honest act is to stop pretending that things are fine. Choice requires accepting reality without guarantees. Stoicism prepares you for this by detaching your peace from outcomes. You do not leave to ensure happiness. You leave to ensure integrity. Happiness may follow, but it is not the metric. The metric is whether you acted in accordance with reason and virtue. Notice whether you are waiting for permission to leave, a dramatic event, a final betrayal, absolute certainty. Stoicism teaches that certainty is rare. Wisdom operates under uncertainty using principles, not proof. If you wait for undeniable justification, you may wait until resentment replaces clarity. Ask yourself whether you would advise a close friend to stay in your situation. Remove loyalty to your own fear and apply impartial judgment. Stoics often imagine advising another person because it strips away emotional bias. What you recommend to others often reveals what you already know. This chapter is not telling you to leave. It is asking you to measure the true cost of staying. Not the imagined cost, but the lived one. Energy, time, character, and peace are finite resources. Where you spend them shapes your life. Courage is not about dramatic exits. It is about honest evaluation and deliberate choice. Whether you stay or go, let it be a decision you can stand behind without excuses. Stoicism teaches that peace comes not from avoiding pain, but from knowing you acted rightly. Chapter 6. Acceptance, Resolution, and Inner Peace. Stoicism teaches that peace does not come from controlling circumstances, but from aligning yourself with reality. By this point, you have examined truth, attachment, respect, growth, and choice. Now comes the final task: acceptance. Not passive resignation, but clear-eyed acceptance of what is and what must follow. This chapter is about resolution, not endings, and about reclaiming inner peace regardless of the path you choose. Acceptance begins with letting go of the idea that the decision must feel good. Stoics never promise comfort, they promise clarity. If you are waiting to feel calm, confident, and certain before acting, you misunderstand the process. Clarity often arrives with discomfort. Peace comes later, after alignment replaces inner conflict. Many people resist acceptance because it feels like failure. If you leave, you believe you failed the relationship. If you stay, you believe you failed yourself. Stoicism dissolves this false framing. Life is not a series of wins and losses. It is a practice of judgment and adjustment. Recognizing that something no longer serves virtue is not failure, it is wisdom. Acceptance also means releasing blame. Blame ties you emotionally to the past. Whether you blame your partner or yourself, you remain stuck in what cannot be changed. Stoicism teaches responsibility without resentment. You acknowledge what happened, learn from it, and move forward without dragging the weight of anger behind you. If you choose to stay, acceptance requires honesty. You must stop waiting for the relationship to become something it is not. You accept its limits, patterns, and realities. You then decide whether you can live virtuously within them. Staying without illusion is harder than leaving with hope, but it is the only way staying can be honorable. If you choose to leave, acceptance requires finality. Not emotional closure from the other person, but internal closure within yourself. Stoicism teaches that closure is not given, it is taken. You end the debate. You stop rehearsing alternate outcomes. You commit to the path you chose and carry yourself forward with dignity. Inner peace comes from consistency between values and actions. When you act against your judgment, tension grows. When you act in alignment, calm follows, even if the situation is painful. Stoicism does not eliminate grief, but it prevents self-betrayal, which is far more damaging. Another crucial aspect of acceptance is forgiving yourself for staying as long as you did. Many people punish themselves for not leaving sooner. Stoicism rejects this cruelty. You acted with the understanding you had at the time. Growth changes perspective. Condemning your past self only delays healing. Resolution also means reclaiming agency. You are not defined by this relationship, its outcome, or its duration. Stoicism teaches that identity is shaped by character, not circumstance. What matters is how you respond now, how you carry yourself forward, how you apply what you have learned. Let go of the need for validation. Others may not understand your decision. They may judge it, question it, or minimize it. Stoicism prepares you for this. Living by reason often means standing alone. Approval is external. Integrity is internal. Only one of these sustains peace. Acceptance does not mean emotional numbness. You may still feel sadness, relief, fear, or grief. Stoicism allows emotion without surrendering to it. You observe what you feel without letting it dictate your actions. Emotions pass, character remains. Ask yourself one final question. Can you respect yourself for the decision you are making? Not today, not in the height of emotion, but in the quiet future, when intensity fades. Self-respect is the Stoic compass. It points toward peace long after emotions settle. This process was never about relationships alone. It was about learning how to live deliberately, how to choose with awareness, how to walk away from what diminishes you, or commit fully to what aligns with virtue. Stoicism does not tell you what to choose. It teaches you how to choose well. Whatever path you take, carry it without bitterness, without drama, without resentment. Act simply, clearly, and firmly. That is the Stoic way. Peace is not found in perfect outcomes, but in honest decisions made with courage. When you stop fighting reality, reality stops fighting you. And in that quiet space, clarity becomes peace.